Welcome to Plastic Model Mojo, a podcast dedicated to scale modeling, as well as the news and events around the hobby. Let's join Mike and Kentucky Dave as they strive to be informative, entertaining, and help you keep your modeling mojo alive.
Well, Mojovia, this is not episode 114. We've got a little special episode this month because Dave and I have been on a road trip, haven't we, buddy?
Yes, we did. Not only have we been on a road trip, we've been on a road trip to a contest that we have not been to for quite a while.
Yes, it's the Plastic Model Mojo return to AMPS. Now, of course, it's not return for the podcast. It's return for Mike and Kentucky Dave because we haven't been in... somewhere between 15 and 20 years between us. We can't really decide, but it's been a long time.
It has.
So we've decided to shift episode 114 into the early May and share with you guys what we got recorded at the AMPS National Convention or AMPS International Convention, and a few bits after the show, post-show, just to let you know what to expect. We've got a few segments where we're going to discuss various aspects of the show we attended, and then we're going to cut in some short segments with some other people that we met along the way or talked to after the conclusion of the show. How's that sound, Dave?
Hey, listen, I think it's well worth letting all the people who didn't get to go for one reason or another to get a little bit of the AMPS experience, because I got to say, the AMPS experience was pretty darn great.
Well, we'll get into some of that a little later, but to set the stage, Dave, I think I've decided it has been about 20 for me because I'm not sure I went to Auburn, Indiana. I think the show up in Ohio was the last one I ever went to.
Okay, yeah, that would make it close to 20.
Where was that again? That was
it was near Youngstown.
It was Youngstown, Ohio. Yeah,
right on the border of Pennsylvania and Ohio.
And for you, what was the last AMPS convention you attended?
Was the one in Auburn, Indiana, which they did twice, and I think I attended both of them. So mine would be the last time they held a national in Auburn.
So it's been a while.
Yes.
To cut to the chase, it's been a while. I got expectations on the outline. Let us know what you were kind of expecting or not expecting.
I didn't know what to expect. To be honest with you, after the last AMPS National in Auburn that I attended, my membership lapsed, and I didn't, I knew that AMPS was still out there because quite a number of the people who are involved in it are good friends of ours. So I knew it still existed, but I really didn't keep up with what occurred, where it had, all the different places that it was held, and is only about, 2 years ago that I rejoined AMPS. Now, I'm an aircraft guy, so I do mostly aircraft, although I'm not limited other than in scale. I'll do almost anything 72nd scale, but I really didn't know what to expect. I didn't know if it was going to be bigger than the shows that we used to attend, whether it was going to be smaller, what the facility was going to be like, because let's face it, you and I were used to attending AMPS when it was in Havre de Grace, Maryland, at a facility that was, to put it kindly, limited.
Yes.
Very limited. I mean, it was a fun experience, don't get me wrong, but it could get really warm in there.
It could. It was just big enough.
It was just barely big enough, or maybe just barely too small. So I really didn't know what to expect. And I got to tell you, I was pleasantly surprised in every aspect of the national convention. How about you?
Like you, I didn't go into it with any expectations. I probably went into it with trepidations instead.
Yes.
But because primarily I was going to enter, and I know at what level I was entering in when we were going to AMPS on the regular in the late 90s and early 2000s. And I've told the story numerous times. I won't retell it. But after that 2002 show, one of the last shows at Harvey Gross, I kind of became the old armchair modeler. I wasn't doing very much and was kind of floundering a little bit because a model had edged me out at that show, kind of set the stage for this coming storm of a big style shift, I guess. And suddenly I didn't know what I was doing, I guess, to be honest. So I went in there taking my entries. There were entries that I'd really not built. I used to build for contests and I used to build for AMPS. Yeah. Both of these were kind of learning experiences for myself and built for myself and just to try some new stuff. And I didn't know what to expect. I didn't know how many friendly faces were going to still be there. I didn't know how big, like you said, like how big the show was going to be, but I really didn't have any expectations. I was just, like I said, a little bit more of trepidations, wondering if I don't know how to say it. If my builds were going to be relevant at the level they're going to have to be entered because of my past entrance to the show. Right. So, but we went with an open mind.
And we were pleasantly surprised.
We were pleasantly surprised on a lot of fronts. And we can
more than pleasantly surprised.
That's true. But, I guess one of the biggest surprises at the show was, and it's entirely through the podcast, just about, we knew a lot of people there.
Right.
Mostly through the podcast. But I suspect because of because it was more or less a single genre centric kind of, all armor show, you had a smaller but tighter, more cohesive community there.
Yes.
So we ended up knowing a lot of people, and a lot of people we know came from a long way.
Yes. That's one thing that I really was, one of the many things I really was pleasantly surprised at was, I think even more than AMPS back in the day, I think AMPS today draws from a much wider geographic area.
It does. I suspect that's because of the longevity they've had. It largely drew from the Northeast United States because at its inception, out of the demise of the Association of Military Modelers, the AMM, I believe the story is that the Northeastern United States membership list was the only one that survived that could be located. So when a new organization was reconstituted, those were the people who were reached out to first. So it always kind of had a Northeastern bent to it. And I think some of that's been diluted over the years.
Yeah.
Well, on the topic of folks we knew there, coincidentally, folks have heard us talk about our Mojovian special agents. And these are just folks who've gone out of their way to help the show or help us accomplish something with the show as we've gone along. And we're up to 4 or 5 of those folks now. Coincidentally, 3 of them were at the AMP show.
Yep.
And they were coming from all over the place.
And we got to reconnect with all of them.
And we did. First up is Special Agent 003, Brandon Jacob. Now, he's down from South Texas area, and he was the guy that helped us out with all the restaurants and stuff there for the last IPMS National Convention. But he came up from Texas.
Yep.
Let's check out what Brandon had to say while at AMPS. Well, Dave, we made it to AMPS.
Yep.
And there's a lot of Mojovian special agents here, coincidentally.
Yes, there are.
We got one of them here. Brandon Jacob, good to see you, man. We hadn't seen you since the National Convention in Texas.
That's right. It's good to see you guys, man. Good to see you.
Well, have you been to AMPS before?
This is my first national. I've been to AMPS shows, but this is my first nationals.
What do you think?
Very good. They put on a good show, and I think everybody's very friendly.
Oh, yeah.
We were noticing that too.
Yeah.
In fact, one thing we noticed was it seemed to be a disproportionate number of folks here that we actually know.
Yeah.
For the size of the show.
And it's interesting because everybody has the same interest, right? It boils down to armor guys, right?
Right.
Pretty much. I mean, there's a few figures here and some other things, but not much.
So now, did you fly in or drive in?
I flew in.
Flew in to where?
Actually, South Bend.
Okay.
On United. I flew in, but the Texas contingency, Stan Spooner, Rob Booth, Bob Bethea and Eric Choi, they drove.
Oh, man.
So I didn't have to carry models.
There you go.
You're going to beat them home, too.
I'm going to beat them home, and they're carrying my new stack of models.
Right. And all your trophies with you.
There you
go.
We don't know about trophies.
Well, to what degree have you participated? Did you come as a participant, or have you done other stuff?
I did judging. I judged the session yesterday, and that's about it. And a buyer.
And a buyer.
So
well,
how did you find AMPS national judging compared to what you've experienced before?
I like it.
Do you?
It's definitely more time consumptive.
Right. How long was your session?
2 hours.
2 hours.
And that's about time to
time to get up and do something
Time to get
else.
up and
yeah
uncross your eyes.
Yeah, but as crazy as it sounds, it's nice that you're sitting and they bring the models to you.
Right.
And there's a comfort level of sitting and looking versus standing like.
Oh, yeah.
Right.
Like on a show floor.
Right.
Yeah.
That's probably a big advantage, actually.
And it's interesting, too, because then also there's a singular focus.
Yeah.
Right? There's not a table full of models. You're focusing on this build right now with 3 other people, and I think the models get a fair look.
That's cool. Did you enter anything?
I did.
How many did you bring?
I brought 4.
Oh, wow.
I brought 4. Haven't seen them out yet. I entered them early, and I think they're in the backlog, if you will. But
Yeah.
Well, I guess Thursday would have been early.
So you brought 4?
Brought 4, yep. One vignette, which is cool because they put the vignettes out immediately.
Right.
So I had one on the table to bring people over and show, and then 3 other soft skin and two armor.
Well, I've got a little vignette, and then my anti-tank gun's still back there. What I was about to say was Thursday would have been real early, so a lot of those models are still back there, I guess, because they're not running a first in, first out.
That's exactly right.
Situation.
Yeah, if had I known this, I would have waited. It's a shame. Can I say it? It's a shame that they don't have the non-judged models on display.
Yeah.
And it'd be tough because the process. I'm not criticizing, but it would be cool. These aren't judged yet, and these are judged, and you could because.
Right. Just more time for more people to see them.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
No, I get
not
that.
a bad suggestion.
Yeah. Maybe they'll make a change for next year. So when do you leave out?
Well, unfortunately, I have to be somewhere this evening and back in Houston, so I'm flying out in about an hour.
Oh, okay.
So I'm going to miss the Saturday fanfare, but...
Well, that's all right. You've got somebody to bring your models and any awards you might happen to win home for you.
Yeah, and got my raffle tickets handed off to a friend. And,
there you go.
No, you didn't win anything.
Yeah,
Sorry.
that's right. But you won a lot of stuff.
Well, I bought a lot of stuff.
Yeah, well, listen, you can't come here and not put out a little coin.
Have you guys bought?
We bought a few things.
Yes.
No kits. I've actually abstained from buying any kit. Well, I know I bought that one little motorcycle.
Yes.
I did get it.
That's all right.
Other than that, supplies, books, accessories.
Yeah, there's 1 or 2 things I've got my eye on that I'm probably going to pick up. But again, it's AMPS Nationals. The vendors are really, really good.
Yeah.
I've got to say the quality of the vendors here is just really, really excellent. So
It would be tough not to spend money,
yes, absolutely.
even though we don't need anything.
So now you got Winter Blitz coming up. You picked the date for 2025?
And yes, we have. And surprisingly, we just locked it in for January 25th.
Okay.
Which is great because this year, Model Fiesta, because of their flexibility, they're still locking in a time when they have their show locked in. But they're early this year. Model Fiesta is January 4th, so we wanted to make sure that we give enough berth as possible. So we're going with January 25th. So Texas this January is going to be the place to be for model shows.
And it'll be warm compared to where we
That's
are.
right.
January in Texas could be Could be. That's a crapshoot. That's for sure.
Yeah.
Well, before we let you go, where are we going to see you again? You going to be at Madison?
Absolutely, going to be at
All right.
Madison.
Well, cool.
And so, what trail are you walking next?
Well, thank you for asking. She's got the bug. My wife has got the bug, and we're going to go over and do the Camino, which is
okay.
Yeah, the Camino in Spain.
Right.
And it's about a 500-mile trek, pilgrimage, if you will.
Yeah.
Widely popular, and we're going to give that a try. And as a matter of fact, she wants to spend an extra week or two in Europe, and I've said there's a town in Bastogne that would be
Yeah,
cool.
there you go. There you go.
Maybe a town in Verdun as well.
Yeah.
But we're gonna spend some time over there, and really right after nationals, just like last year. Get out of Texas in August.
That sounds cool, man.
Yeah.
Yep.
Well, safe travels back to Texas.
All right. You all have a good, safe trip back to Kentucky land.
We will. All right, man.
You take care.
Thank you.
Well, Brandon's always a good guy. I hope he's at Madison.
Always a pleasure to see him. It's always great to hear what he's going to do next. I think traipsing across a trail in Spain sounds amazing. And the guy's living an adventurous life. So it really was great to be able to see him and to hang out and to talk models as well as everything else.
Well, hopefully it won't be too long before we see him again.
Yes.
And we'll be seeing him hopefully at the IPMS National Convention in Madison, Wisconsin, which is a real nice venue and real nice accommodations. I hope.
Yep.
That's kind of the next bullet here I wanted to hit. What do you think about the facilities? We'd never been to the South Bend.
No, I have not. My first visit to see Touchdown Jesus. I've never been to, as a good Catholic boy, you would think I'd been to Notre Dame at some point. But no, I've never been to South Bend. It's a beautiful little town. The convention center was really, really good. Other than concrete floors, which get to your back and your feet by the end of the second day. The facility is fantastic. It's got a beautiful view out onto the St. Joseph River. I was really impressed. And AMPS only used about 1/4 of that facility for their convention. And you could easily hold an IPMS national convention in this facility. And it would be a good facility. It would be just the perfect size for an IPMS national. It was great for the AMPS national, well lit.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. It was, I think some people might, especially if you're taking photographs. But for me, it's one of those things that if it's not a problem, you kind of don't notice.
Right.
And I was never want for more light. I didn't feel like, I don't even know that I thought about it till the very end. It's like, this place has got pretty good lighting for how high the ceilings are and everything else going on. Yep.
And it was great. Now, given the concentration of vendors and then the models all in the one room, the level of ambient noise was really not uncomfortable. And sometimes, particularly in vendor rooms at the IPMS Nationals, the room happens to have a lower ceiling, or it can get quite loud to the point where it's hard to hear yourself think. This was just perfect because, as you can hear on the interviews, we could sit down with people and have a really pleasant conversation with no problem hearing each other, anything like that. I understand that AMPS is going to be in Harrisburg, Pennsylvania next year, but I will tell you, I can't wait to see it return to South Bend because that is a really, really good venue.
Well, you're not leaving me much else to say. It was just a wonderful venue.
Yes.
And apparently some folks there done some old school and hardball negotiations, it sounds like, and got a really good deal on that place. And again, it was just a fabulous place. I mean, yeah, some carpet would have helped out a little bit, but we had a place to sit down.
Yeah.
And what gets me to the next good thing about this was
there's one more thing to mention about the convention center. They had a really good staff. That place was clean, and man, the restrooms, which, some of these public facilities can get a little iffy. Everything was spot. You would almost have thought you were at a Disney resort, given how clean they kept everything. It was very impressive.
Well, my youngest son Jack was traveling with us, and we took a restroom break there, I guess that first day, and we were walking around the corner from the show hall where the restrooms were, and he's like, "This place got a swimming pool?" And it might. I don't know. But
I don't think it does.
I don't think it does either, but it might. And I guess they just cleaned.
Yeah.
And it just clearly they'd used a chlorine or bleach or something in the restrooms. But for conventions that size at these public type facilities, I always have the motto, go big and go early, because that typically the restrooms can get junkyarded, and the recovery rate's usually slow.
But not the case here. Hats off to the people who actually run the convention center, because it was totally clean everywhere. Really nice job.
And the other good thing about it, and is the next sub bullet on the outline here, is to not have been tied specifically with the convention center or actually owning the convention center. The hotels were as close as you can get.
Oh man. Directly the hotel we stayed at.
Oh yeah.
Directly across the street. Since we had your son along, we had a 2-room suite, and fantastic. The hotel was fantastic. The one that was like a quarter of a block down, where a lot of the other guys stayed. Also, from what I hear, another fantastic facility. The room prices were good. There was another hotel just up the street that wasn't being used as a convention hotel, but if you held the Nationals, clearly could be. But
sure.
Man, it was the hotel. Our room was really, really nice.
Yeah, I was pleased. And not only was the convention center close to the hotels, but just a block off behind it, continuing away from the convention center past the hotel, was a pretty good swath of downtown South Bend. And the hotel had a restaurant list and showed all the ones within walking distance. And, it was a lot of local joints, which we like to do. And they're all within walking distance. Literally not even a stretch.
Right.
A block and a half, maybe two,
right.
But 10, 12 minutes tops to walk there, and didn't have a bad meal there, man.
No, did not. In fact, I will venture to say I had one of the best pub meals that I've ever had.
No doubt.
Last night we went to a place called Fiddler's Hearth, which is an Irish bar, and Jack and I went, and we had dinner, and this was after the long day at the convention, followed by the awards and getting your models and getting them back to the hotel room and all. And I venture to say that we had breakfast, but we really didn't have lunch that day. So
right.
We were all pretty starving, and man, was that a good meal.
Yeah, that place was good. It had what did it have, like 2,400 reviews or something? They were still like at
4.2, 4.5.
Yeah, that's pretty good.
And I did a review on Yelp for them too, because they deserve that 4+ stars.
Well, dining kind of gets us to our next Mojovian special agent, Dave.
Okay.
001, Mike Radjke from down in the Indianapolis area, part of the Roscoe Turner chapter, earned his title by picking us up Jamaican meat patties from Patties of Jamaica ahead of the Indianapolis shows for a couple of years running now.
Yeah.
That's how we got to know him.
And keep in mind that the Indy show is the first show that Plastic Model Mojo ever set up and recorded at. So Indy has a special place in our heart. We were sorry we weren't able to go this year. Just because of the number of the contests all being very close together. Mike has done us a solid by getting us those Jamaican meat patties.
And seems perfectly willing to do it again.
Yes.
Well, let's see what Mike had to say while at AMPS. Dave, we lucked out. 3 of our Mojovian special agents were at one show at one time. How about that?
I know. It's a gathering.
Well, we already talked to Brandon Jacob, 003, but we have the original 001 here, Mike Radjke from Indianapolis area. How's it going, man?
Good.
We're good. You've been to AMPS before?
No, this is my first AMP show.
I knew you did a lot of armor.
Yep, definitely. Entered 5 kits, so kind of excited to see how the judging process is different. Actually get some feedback, so yeah.
Well, I understand Indy was a really nice show. I mean, Mike and I were gutted that we couldn't make it this year, just simply from the standpoint there was so much going on. But sounds like you all had a very successful show.
Yeah, it keeps growing year by year. We're selling out vendor tables a month in advance now, and
We'll have to get on it next year.
Yeah,
I think we had about 661. I think was the final tally for this year. So
good. That's a good count.
yeah, it was a good show, really good show.
Well, I don't think that the 3 shows will line up like this next year. I think the odds of that are slim. So hopefully, because Indy's, it's one of our favorite shows.
Yeah,
Yeah.
well, it's the first show we recorded at, and so
Right.
it's got a special place in our heart. That and Patty's.
Patty's a Jamaican.
Patties. Yeah, didn't get those this year.
But that's
Dang.
fine. We'll give you a little break from that.
I'll have to bring some down to the MMCL show.
There you
Oh,
go.
that would work too.
That would work.
Well, what did you enter?
I've got a 48 scale M1A1. I've got a 35th scale Easy 8 Sherman, 35th scale KV1, a Sergeant York, and then a Russian T10.
You've been busy.
Yeah, it's a couple years worth.
Okay.
So,
Okay.
Well, being a first timer here, what do you think?
I'm impressed. The work on the tables is amazing.
Yeah, it is.
I can definitely see why IPMS can't do this at a Nets.
Right.
It takes so long to get these models judged.
Did you do any of the judging?
I didn't.
Okay.
Not for this show. I'll definitely do that at
I
some
was
point.
going to say you definitely need to, because seeing it from that side,
Yep.
I think really will. It's an eye-opening experience.
for sure.
Did you find what you're shopping for?
Yeah. I got to blame you for about $250 worth of books.
Thank you. Oh, you got books? Where'd you get them?
I got them from Dave.
Oh, yeah.
I got Son of Sherman. So
that's a good one. That's
you can't go wrong with it.
no, that's quite the tome.
Yeah.
Now you got to go out there and pick up a bunch of Sherman kits.
I've got a couple in the stash already, so we're good.
Okay.
Oh, you see anything out there you really impressed you?
Yeah, there's definitely the Israeli diorama where he's dropping down into the canal.
Oh, the Suez
The
crossing.
Suez crossing
that's
thing.
pretty cool.
That's pretty good. Just the diorama work is
Oh, it is.
incredible.
There's a lot of nice ones.
I can't paint a figure to save my life.
That's
so,
what keeps me from doing it. Too.
Yeah, I can paint a pilot in a plane as long as he's got a helmet and a face mask on. We're good.
Yeah.
It's a lot of it's practice. If I really wanted to be good, I could probably get good enough to satisfy myself. But I don't model fast enough or build enough to get good at figure painting.
Even with a wet palette, my paint would dry up constantly.
Oh, one of our Canadian friends just told us he takes a Hornet head and paints the same one. Paints it, strips it, paints it, strips it, paints it, and just practices that way.
Yeah.
And I think that is absolutely the way to go.
Yeah, no, for sure. I mean, I can't blend. I don't know why.
I am a little curious to try what Martin Kovac Night Shift has done with the using not painting opaquely but doing filters and
Right, the glazes and the washes.
And it
Sounds a little more manageable.
Yes, it does, and that's why I'm thinking. My problem is still faces. I'm not sure I'll be able to conquer that. So
Yeah, I sat in the figure painting seminar yesterday, and the seminars have been great too. So picked
listen.
up some tips. We'll see what we can put to work.
Yeah.
Yeah, unfortunately, we didn't make any.
No, we
got here
did not
just
this year.
A little late to get some of the early ones today, and we just been busy today. So
Yeah,
they're usually pretty good.
for sure.
Well, we're going to see you next.
I'm probably gonna be at Wonderfest.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, that's in our backyard.
Yeah,
literally.
and might literally this year, if I can pull it off, might be in my backyard. I may have some folks over to to the pool and sit around having some adult beverages.
There you go. Yeah, I finished one of the 32nd AMT TIE Fighters, the new
How
toolkit.
is that kit?
It's, as long as you pay attention, it goes together beautifully.
It looks nice. That one's on my buy list. I've yet to see one for sale anywhere.
The decals are horrid.
Okay.
Well, that's all right.
Are there already aftermarket or masks
I
or
haven't
something?
found any yet.
Yeah, I think there probably will be.
Yeah.
That kit's going to be wildly popular.
Yeah, for sure. But yeah, it goes together like a dream.
You going to make the IPMS National Convention?
I'm planning on it.
Okay, well, hope you do. We'll see you there.
For sure.
Well, thanks for stopping by, Mike.
Absolutely. Thank you, guys.
Thank you,
care.
man.
Yeah.
Good to see you.
Good to see you.
Indy always has pretty good vendors.
It does. It does.
I was pretty impressed with the AMPS vendors.
Yes.
Another one another place, another aspect of the show I did not know what to expect, and I'll tell you why. When we were doing AMPS again on the regular, as you say, in Maryland and even the one in Ohio, there was still a lot of pretty prolific polyurethane resin cast aftermarket companies.
Yep.
And folks like Archer Fine Transfers. What's another one that was used to be at AMPS all the time? Thatch Weave. Just folks who had not only aftermarket type products, but had a pretty diverse product line. Lots to choose from. That kind of thing it's changed a little bit. There's, a lot of aftermarket companies now are a lot more mainstream.
Yes.
Especially like photo etch, things like that.
3D printing.
3D printing's also taken the forefront from a lot of these more organic mastered things that are hand cast. So that said, I wasn't sure what to expect. I saw the vendor list ahead of time, and I was like, okay, I recognize a few of these, but not sure what to expect. So they said they had a few last minute cancellations, and they were a little down from what they'd hoped to be. But I tell you what, didn't matter for my wallet.
I was going to say, I didn't have a problem spending money, and frankly could have spent twice what I did. I had to forcefully exercise restraint. I was really pleasantly surprised. You remember back in the original AMPS days, the Havre de Grace, because the place was so small, the vendors were very cramped. You had a lot of resellers and people getting rid of collections and stuff like that, along with the cottage industry folks. Whereas here, I don't want to say more mainstream because that doesn't really convey it. But first of all, you had a ton more room. It's one of the most pleasant and comfortable shopping experiences I've had. You never were shoulder to shoulder with anybody. You weren't squeezing down the middle of an aisle. Pleasant setup, pleasant experience. High quality. Lot of vendors who are professional vendors. USA, Last Cavalry.
David Doyle books.
Speaking of which, nice grab. We'll talk about that in a minute. Just the quality. Now there were some vendors who had kit collections. In fact, we ran into one vendor who had a kit that I'm pretty sure you could have grabbed at the first AMPS National we ever went to.
Probably.
and that kit may have been, that actual box may have actually been at the first AMPS in Havre de Grace. But so there were those, and you could find diamonds by looking through all that stuff if that's what you like. But the level of quality professional vendor bringing quality items for sale was really, really good. And that's the thing I think that impressed me the most.
Well, I was pleased. I didn't spend an exorbitant amount of money, and I had some ideas of some things I wanted to pick up, and I did. So my wallet came back a little bit broken, but I tell you what I did avoid. I avoided new kits for the most part.
You and me both. I took a solid pledge. Although I was tempted. There were a couple that I almost bought.
Well, I really wish there had been a 72nd scale 0 there.
Yes.
That'd be funny.
There were a few aircraft kits there.
Yeah, there were.
There were. I mean, I could have, if I pushed myself, I could have bought a 72nd scale aircraft at AMPS, which would have been funny. But yeah, it would have been neat to find a Tamiya Zero at the automatic buy price.
Well, what did break your wallet?
Well, again, I exercise discipline. I can think of 4 or 5 kits that I would have loved to have bought. I did not buy any, given the fact that I bought a number of kits at Hamilton, at HeritageCon. I was like, okay, your finish rate doesn't justify more kit purchases. So I steeled myself. I did not buy any kits. I bought a book from CRM. It was good to see Chris Merciel there.
Yeah.
And back in the vending game. I bought a paint set. I bought some display items, some sanding sticks, and I bought micro chisel from UMM USA. Let's see if there's anything else I bought. You brought me...
you bought a book?
Yeah, the one from CRM, the wood book.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, that was from Chris at CRM.
Oh, that's right. That's right.
And I got to read, since you drove your own car both ways, we didn't have to hassle with rental or anything, but you generously drove the whole way, both up and back. So I actually got to read a lot of that book on my way back from the convention.
Take out the hour to get to your house. It wasn't much further than Columbus.
Yeah, no, it really wasn't.
So you'd driven that one. So
yeah,
we're square now, man.
Okay. So what broke your wallet?
Well, I'll fess up to the one small kit I did buy. Another AMPS perennial was there. Marty and Mary from Chicagoland, M&M Models.
And we haven't seen them in forever.
I don't know. I've seen them since the last AMPS I went to.
Exactly.
They don't make it down to many of the Region 4 shows.
Yeah.
I suspect there were some of Marty's stash. There was a stack of kits on their table that were half price.
Yeah.
And another one of those brown box kits from the Japanese magazines was there, one I'd not seen before. I've got the Japanese tank, in the three installments of it. I've got the KI-43 from Fine Molds, and this was a Japanese motorcycle and sidecar from Pit Road. Now that kit is still available, but it was kind of cool to pick it up in that boxing for $10. I can't.
You know what? That would make a great bill.
It probably would.
You could really do that up right. You don't see the Japanese stuff nearly as much as, frankly, I think you should.
Some other stuff I got was we mentioned David Doyle books before, and his product line keeps growing.
Yeah,
he's got his own stuff and the stuff he helps publish, and then he started picking up. He's got all the nuts and bolts books,
right? Which
I like. I didn't buy any of those at AMPS, but he's also got the Tankograd books.
Yeah,
out of Germany. There were 2 titles from their red covers. They're Soviet and Russian subject books, and I picked up one on the World War II era Soviet Aerosons. The
right
aircraft engine powered snowmobiles. I got that one, and I got the T-35 heavy tank, the big multi-turreted tank. I've got a lot of Russian source reference on that tank, but in the Tankograd style, they lean very heavily on new line drawings generated just for the publications and German soldier snapshots.
Yeah.
So almost all the photographs in that book or really both books, have never been published outside of Tankograd publications. So if you're into the Red Army World War II, those books are, I think they're a must have.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I'm chipping away at it. I just about have them all at this point, I think.
That isn't what I would have led with on your purchases from David Doyle.
The one you're hinting at did not come from David Doyle.
Didn't it?
No.
Oh, I thought that came from him.
Folks, what Dave is alluding to is the gentleman who acquired all the original artwork from Squadron Signal back during the dissolution of Squadron Hobbies and MMD, and that Brandon talked about that in our interview with him, talking about the reconstitution of Squadron Mail Order, Squadron Hobbies. I think he's got the rights to the books again, but these guys are still selling off the original artwork, and I don't know how I missed this at any of the other shows. maybe I just didn't think it was worth buying at the time. But
this was another golden item, man. You're hot.
I bought the original cover art. It's a pencil drawing with watercolor over it, painted by Uwe Feist. That was the cover art for one of the early Squadron Signal in Action books. I think it's number 6, Soviet Panzers in Action, and it's an early T-34 with yellow turret numbers. It's I've got the book. I've had the book for ages. It's kind of the book that got me started down interested in that side of armor modeling. So for me, it meant a lot to even see it, much less buy it. I was able to buy it. The price was real favorable, and man, I'm so glad I picked that up. Now I just got to get to the frame shop, and that'll probably cost 3 times what I paid for it.
It probably, but you need to make sure it is put it in a giant Tupperware container until you take it to the frame shop. I don't want anything to happen to that because it's gorgeous.
It is. It's really nice. So I was glad to get that, and I've shown that on the dojo. Folks have seen that. What else did I get, man? I got. I told you if anybody was selling Mr. Hobby leveling thinner, not to let me leave that show without a bottle.
Right, MLT, the unicorn tiers.
Yeah. So Micro World Games was there in force. They had about a dozen bottles on the table, so I didn't just get one. I got 2.
That's my strategy. I have 2 at all times, and as soon as one of them runs dry, I open up the other one and then go on and order either go to Brian's if he happens to have it, or if he doesn't have it, I'll go online and order a bottle in.
In addition to that, from Wanamaker Hobbies out of Indianapolis, they were there. Now, they're kind of an old school aftermarket and resin vendor. I bought from A Resin, which is a Russian company, because it's gotten hard to get now, a BT-7A turret, which is a artillery version of the BT-7. The turret's, the vertical side style, but it's a little bit taller.
Right. Because
it's got a 76 millimeter howitzer in it instead of a 45 millimeter anti-tank gun. That was from, who made that? No, that wasn't A Resin. That was the MR model out of Germany.
Right.
The A model thing I got was an IS-2 hull, the front section from the engine firewall to the nose for the hull version. That's not the full wedge. It's got the step down in the driver's area.
Right.
The Russians call it the broken nose version, but I've been after that one because that one's a couple of photographs of one of those. I would be interested in doing it sometime. And finally, from those guys, I got from Quinta Studios the three-dimensional decal set for the Zis 5 family.
Oh yes, I've forgotten you'd gotten that.
Yeah, so it's going to let me enhance the dashboard on my Zis 6 because it's all the same. As luck would have it, that decal set also has the rocket control box for the Katyusha as part of the set. So I was glad to get that. I think that's all I got. I didn't do too bad, Dave.
Well, good.
The Mojovian Special Agents kept piling up, but we missed this one at the show, so we've had to go back and round him up after the fact. Mr. Sprue Pie with Fret, Stephen Lee is Mojovian Special Agent 002 because he's kind of helped us out behind the scenes over the years we've been doing this. And we finally got to catch up with Steve after the show. So let's get into that, Dave.
Okay.
Dave, it was great to see all our Mojovian special agents as we kid around with all the time. And when we met, we never got to put a face with until the AMPS show is Steve Lee from Sprue Pie with Fret. Steve, we're having to do this after the fact because you got away from us at AMPS, but thanks for coming back, giving us a little insight on what you saw at the show. And man, it was great to meet you face to face after all these years.
It was great to meet you, and thanks for having me on the show again. I really appreciate it. I always enjoy these visits that I have with you guys.
Well, cool. Had you been to AMPS before?
Maybe 15, 20 years ago, I went to a couple of AMPS at a couple of AMPS nationals when it was in Havre de Grace, Maryland.
We were probably there and just didn't know we were going to know you in 20 years.
Yes, it was a different time. There was certainly nothing like a podcast happening, and holy smokes, the vendor area was a microscopic version of what we have at the 2024 AMPS.
What were your general impressions of the show overall?
I really loved it. I would characterize the show as small but mighty compared to, I think, other big national events. It was all concentrated on armor, of course, but certainly had a fair bit of what I would just characterize as land-based science fiction. And I felt like everybody who was there brought something. It wasn't just a lot of spectators. So it was high energy, high density, generally a high quality experience for me. And I really met a lot of great people, saw a lot of great models, had a lot of great conversations. So that was really my big takeaway. My other big takeaway was something I guess I've learned over the years is just what the kind of the level of good cheer there.
Oh, yes.
People are there for their models and with the models and other people's models. And it was, the jealousy or the nastiness, or the snarkiness factor was absolutely not there. And I think that, that's baked into AMPS's culture, with their tiers of skill, beginning, intermediate, advanced, and master. I think that whole thing is geared towards growing people and bringing them along. And the effect of that is to welcome people. Like, come on in with your model. And if it's not, if you're just beginning, we're going to help you get better. And we're going to point out the things about it that are good anyways. And I really, you could feel that. Like that was a palpable thing that you got all around the show floor, the vendor area, the conversations that inevitably break out there, and then all the after hours stuff. So that was a thing that just really kind of struck me as really great about that event.
I would completely agree. For want of a better word, social cohesion. Everybody was everybody's friend from the moment you met. Mike and I were very much surprised at how many people, not having been to an AMPS contest in 15 or 20 years, how many people we knew immediately on site. And it was as if no time had passed. In some cases, no time had passed because we had just seen them 3 weeks earlier at Heritage Con. But, but there are a lot of folks that we hadn't seen in quite a while. And it was a really, really fun time.
Indeed, it was. One thing that really kind of, I live in my little modeling bubble of, and I really like what some people call post-war armor or what some people call modern armor. And I like 172nd. And I was kind of brought back down to earth in a way at the very small number of non-135th entries. And then the dominance of World War II and in particular World War II German subjects. So in a way that was like, yep, that is what the normies like. I'm kind of a weirdo. I love my Abrams Squad magazine, and now I realize why that's $20 an issue and quarterly. Just because there's just not going to be enough armor modeling to go around if you really did cut back what people really do love, which is World War II and particularly World War II German stuff.
Funny you mentioned that because I noted the exact same thing. The 72nd scale stuff that was there was of very high quality, no question. But there doesn't seem to be quite the uptake in 72nd scale armor models inside of AMPS as opposed to in IPMS, where if you go to the IPMS Nationals, there's an entire table of multiple categories of 72nd scale armor models. So, and I don't know if that's being armor centric or armor only. 35th scale is so much more ingrained in armor that it's taking longer for there to be acceptance of it. I don't know, but I did note that.
Well, I also noticed the other non-135th scales as popular and as much ballyhoo as 1/16th is getting. I was expecting to see tables full of 1/16th stuff.
Yeah. Oh yeah, there was hardly any.
And that's not the case. There were some outstanding things, some absolutely stunning 1/16th items that were built, and I do think there's this weird I don't even know what to call it, but this weird gap in technique and finishing that needs to be done to really be successful with a 1/16th model. In other words, you just don't do more of what you do in 1/16th or in 1/35th to accomplish something in 1/16th.
Oh, I completely agree.
And some people get that. Some people don't. I mean, and the same thing happens, by the way, in 1/72nd. I think good finish in 1/72nd. This is going to scare some people when I say this. It's much more art leaning and artistic leaning, and I think an engineering approach of I do things in this exact order, and I add this, and I add this, and I add this, and it's like, well, in 1/72nd, things actually start to become obscured, and you can't do these distinct or discrete things. And the best examples I can give of that is I think I'll see a 1/72nd model with a mud product, one of MIG Ammo's or AK's mud products that was intended for 1/35th, and it doesn't look good on 1/72nd, and it's almost cursed to be too heavy and be not finely grained enough. I can't think of a better word than that, but it's not finely grained enough.
That's probably it. Yeah, the chunks are just too big.
I think it works the other direction in 1/16th, but I think the one diorama in 1/16th that I saw that gave me a wow moment. It also had masterful use of figures, which I think is the secret superpower of 1/16th. It's not just the vehicle all on its own, but when you can have figures that size and they're well executed, there's something pretty magical about that. And I've seen it a few times, not every time, but when I see it, it's actually inspirational. And yes, there might be a couple of 1/16th things in my stash that have me pondering that.
Well, that's a huge move for you from 72nd scale to 16th.
Well, yeah, somebody finally offered a post-war, or is going to offer a post-war kit in 1/16th, an M113, a vehicle I know extremely well. I'm very much looking forward to kind of going to town on that with a little bit of a magnum opus build.
Oh, and I imagine there's going to be so much 3D print, photo etch, aftermarket, because there were so many versions of that and so many variations. That one's just going to get all sorts of love from the cottage industry and small industry manufacturers.
Absolutely.
Well, Steve, you mentioned the after hours a little bit, and you and Tim Holland, El Presidente from the Model Geese podcast, were traveling together, and you guys came by our room there on Friday night, and we had an interesting conversation. It wasn't really modeling related, but a pretty nice casual conversation and some good drinks, and we appreciate you guys coming by and hanging out with us.
Well, we really enjoyed it. It was great. I could have stayed there another 12 hours talking to you guys, but I realized, middle-aged man reality. Sleep must eventually be acquired and experienced, and the buckets of brown liquor that I used to be able to put away.
Yeah, no,
it just ain't happening anymore. But it was great, and I really we both were kind of regretting on our drive back. I mean, we had to get back for different obligations back here, on the East Coast, but we were both thinking, wow, we should have plotted to stay, the whole day and maybe leave on Sunday instead of.
How long was the drive for you?
Total for me was like 11 hours. So I met him at my office, because it was just a nice neutral location, which is near the Beltway in Washington. I met him there. I think he'd been on the road for like an hour and 15 minutes, hour and a half. And I'd already, that's a 2.5 hour turn for me. And then it was 9 hours past that. But it was great. We solved all the world's problems. It was the longest time he and I'd ever really spent together. So we really got to know each other and found out we had very many things in common.
Well, that's funny because Mike and I solved all the world's problems on the way to Heritage Con. So, hey,
all right.
Who figured it just takes a couple of guys sitting in a car for 9 hours, all the world's problems are solved.
That's right. That is exactly right.
Well, Steve, where are we going to see you next? Are you going to make Madison? Is that on your list?
That is the intention at this point. I'm going to find my way there. I'm not sure if I'm going to drive, fly, take the Badger Ferry across Lake Michigan, which is something I've kind of got in mind. Probably will carpool, probably have some passengers with me if I don't bum a ride with somebody. But yes, I'm definitely looking forward to coming out to the big nationals in Madison, which is a delightful town. I've been there once or twice in the past. It's a great place to go, even if there's not a big model show there.
Well, we hope you make it because we look forward to that, and our hospitality suite will always be open for you.
Yep.
Awesome. I appreciate that.
You're welcome, and we'll take in some nice restaurants while we're there as well.
Yeah, there might be some cheese curds and some beer there.
There you go. And while I can say that we might not have bucket loads of brown liquor, we certainly will have a fine selection for you to peruse in the dojo.
And let me see what I can do to liven things up myself. So
all are welcome.
All right, Steve, thanks for catching up with us after the fact here, after we missed you at the AMPS show floor, and we look forward to when we see you again.
Awesome. Thanks, gentlemen. I really appreciate you inviting me on once again.
Had a great
you're
time.
welcome. Well, it was really great to finally meet Stephen Lee face to face.
Yes, it was. And the man is stylish. You know, the Popeye Doyle pork pie hat. I mean, he is styling.
He is, and he hung out with us a little after the fact there on Friday evening. He was traveling with El Presidente.
Yes,
Tim Holland from the Model Geeks, and that was the second time we've seen Tim in not so long, 3-4 weeks.
Yep.
Inside a month. So those guys were traveling together, and good to see them both. But it was nice to finally meet Steve face to face.
It really was, because we've talked to him any number of times. We've interviewed him a few times. We've talked and exchanged DMs and emails. And that's one of the nice things at AMPS. We got to put a lot of faces to a lot of names of people we've interacted with.
Well, we also got to see a lot of great models.
You ain't kidding, brother.
Well, what were your general impressions of the entries?
Top quality. I will venture to say, and this is not any diss or slam or, not a negative comparison or anything. I would say that the quality top to bottom of the models at AMPS is really, really good. And as far as the qualitative level, I would say it's as good as, if not a little better than, an IPMS National, just simply because instead of 3,000 models, you've got 681, and the number of people coming and competing, the vast majority compete in the advanced level. And the result of that is you don't see too many builds that are not of significant quality. I mean, you see some entries where you can tell that the person's just starting out, they're entering in basic level and all of that stuff. But man, the number of models that you just stopped and looked at and went, wow, you could move 5 feet on a table without doing that.
Well, the vignettes and dioramas were pretty impressive too. A lot of really good work there.
Yes, unbelievably good work, and a lot of World War I stuff. A lot of the what if hypothetical category, which is kind of trending sci-fi-ish these days, is growing, which, to be honest with you, is a real surprise to me, because back in the old days, you used to never see any of that. No. Other than maybe a paper Panzer or two. Now there are Warhammer items and
some complete fantasies.
Complete fantasy stuff. I was really pleasantly surprised by that. I did notice that 72nd scale does not seem to be as popular at AMPS National than it is at IPMS Nationals or even IPMS Regionals. At the IPMS Nationals, you'll have tables full of 72nd scale armor models, whereas at the AMPS show, there were a number of them, and boy, the number of them that were there were really, really good. But you just didn't have nearly the volume of 72nd scale armor entries that you might see at an IPMS National.
Well, we only have a data point of one, so
Yes, that's right.
we'll have to see where that goes.
Where Harrisburg next year, the tables may be full of 72nd scale armor. What were your impressions?
I agree that it was the general level was really good. There were some really exceptional things there. I really liked quite a number of the dioramas.
Yes.
Clearly, there's no 48 scale bias at AMPS.
Yeah.
There's quite a bit of that, and if I'm not mistaken, Spooner's Soviet self-propelled gun was a 48 scale model.
I believe it is.
Which won Best of Show, so that was kind of cool. Again, it's not my scale, but considering that it's often dismissed as airplane scale, that was good to see.
It was, and again, no matter what the scale, the quality was off the charts.
I had my entries there. I took two. I took my little Airfix nostalgia build, the Morris Tractor and Bofors done in British 8th Army markings in North Africa. And I took the ZIS-2, the 57 millimeter anti-tank gun and emplacement. And the little one went into vignettes. The other one I got into ordnance, mainly because it didn't have any figures on it, which I think that's probably where it belonged.
Yep.
And, to my surprise, I did okay.
Yep. No, you listen, for having been away 20 years, you put your models on the table and they definitely fit in with the quality that was there.
Which was very encouraging.
Yes.
Now, I'm not sure I'll go back to building for a show and getting back into that rat race again.
Yeah, I'm not sure.
But I did well, especially considering the focus that those two builds had was a lot more inward than prior.
Yeah.
Well, another show, Dave, we saw some amazing things at was Heritage Con.
Yes, it was only 3 weeks ago.
And as luck would have it, Duncan Young was at AMPS.
Yes, he was, and it was good to see him.
Well, let's catch up with him. Dave, sometimes I think this is like we're playing travel baseball or something. Yeah, we keep seeing all all these people we know from all of our other stops. 2 weeks ago, we're up in Hamilton, Ontario, and he's sitting here right in front of us in South Bend, Indiana, is Duncan Young from the Hamilton Club. How you doing, man?
I'm a bit tired after a couple days and some long traveling, but you know what? As an armor builder, coming to AMPS is the thing to do. So it's a good couple days so far.
Well, we haven't been to AMPS in 20 years.
15,
20 between us. And
the national.
We didn't quite know what to expect, but based on the prior shows. But, man, we're having a good time. And good to see you again. And we want to thank you again. I've got you in person about the hospitality at Heritage Con, because we had an absolute banger of a time up there.
Yeah, that's good to hear. It was Heritage Con was another good show this year. Just from statistics, we had more than 2,800 people come through the doors. So the museum is quite happy, just in terms of overall fundraising and just attention to the venue. We had just under 700 models that hit the table. So we had a little over 700 registered in advance. So it's like, a 95%, completion rate on actual models registered versus what hit the table.
Very low cancellation rate.
Yeah. And, and even, I would say, even talking to some of our members who registered 4, but brought 2. So you consider that, and that's just how it works out. It was a very good show. So yeah, we were very happy.
How long did it take you to drive here?
So I live in Guelph, just not far from Hamilton. I was 6.5 hours with, a few stops across the border in Sarnia. Very, very achievable to get to South Bend. I actually have never I've flown over Michigan, but I've never driven through Michigan. And that was a very easy drive.
As long as you don't stop in Detroit, you'll be okay.
Yeah, and I purposely I was going to go through that border crossing and then on a whim say, 402, Sarnia, Port Huron, And I think that was the right decision. That's how I'll go home tomorrow too.
Well, good.
So yeah, easy drive.
Did you bring models?
I did, but I actually didn't enter them. HeritageCon took up a lot more time this year, just from changing of roles and just out of helping people keep busy. And I found myself rushing to finish something, and I brought it actually with like things left to do, saying I'm going to spend Thursday night, and I'm going to, even if I have to, I'll work on it on Friday. And I'm like, you know what? I want to finish it the way I want to finish it. I have a base at home that's been started but not finished it, so I'm like, it doesn't matter.
Yeah,
I've helped judge the vendor table. I've gone to 2 seminars. It's okay. They'll
which
be here for next
seminars
year.
did you go to?
I went to a figure painting seminar yesterday. It is blown my mind in terms of like using a wet palette, how to approach shading of. It was all we got through was painting of skin, faces and things, and that like has really changed how my approach is going to be to figure painting and just using a wet palette, which I don't do now,
Right.
and just painting in general. And then this morning I went to Cookie Sewell's T72 overview,
Right.
and he said he had just recently updated it to sort of take into more account what's going on in Ukraine and the new variants that are coming out, but to get that history that really the evolution of the T72 started with the T54.
Right.
And so that was, very informative, and that sort of
Cool.
opens my eyes up to a few different things that way. Yeah.
Well, where might we see you next?
Nationals.
All
IPMS
right.
Nash. There's a fair contingent. There's a bus trip being organized by one of our members. He's done this in the past. I'm not traveling that way, but I have a friend from the club, Bernie, our treasurer, who's on with us on your show a couple, month or so ago. We're going to leave Wednesday. We've got our hotel booked. That's just going to stay. We're not playing with that. But yeah, I think we're really looking forward to that, because we'll be there like Wednesday, Thursday, all the way to the Saturday, leave home. We come home Sunday. So.
That's great. This is the chance for Canadians to get to. It's never going to be closer to Canada than it is right.
Well, an interesting drive. I'm pretty much, if like Chicago, I think is, so this is, I got to figure out metric and conversion. So like maybe 175 kilometers from where we are here in South Bend.
Right.
So that's like an hour and a half, and Madison's just around the lake from there. I'm pretty much going to drive through South Bend to get to Madison,
Right.
but we are going to drive it. I think it's about a 10-hour drive. That's an achievable day trip. It'll be a long day, but it's achievable. So it'll be
Good.
Yeah.
Well, cool. Well, thanks for stopping by the room last night. Always good to see you.
Yeah, you too. And thanks for the invite, and thanks for having me on.
All right.
Cheers.
Cheers. It's great to see Duncan. It sounds like a literal busload of Canadians is coming to Madison. So
Yeah, there should be.
he said he wouldn't be traveling with them, but he's going to be there. So, we're going to get to see him 3 times in a calendar year. Not going to complain about that. Duncan's a good guy. Dave, we're getting close to the end of this thing. Overall, or what are your high points, your takeaways, and your final impressions from AMPS 2024?
Great quality models, really good social life or social interactions or camaraderie, however you want to put it. The facility, venue, great. I like South Bend. It's a nice place close by. Going here convinced me that when they hold it in Harrisburg next year, even though it's going to be like 9 hours, I'm still thinking it would be worth the trip to go. The high points were getting to see our Mojovian special agents, as well as getting to see a lot of other friends, fellow podcasters, some, really, really fantastic armor builders. The one thing I regret is we didn't get to any of the seminars. And I tell people at IPMS Nationals, go to the seminars, because there's some of the best stuff at the show. I have no doubt the same is true in AMPS. And when we go to Harrisburg next year, I will definitely make it a point to get to a couple of seminars. How about you?
Well, I think the high points for me were, again, like you said, the camaraderie, and our segment there with Stephen Lee kind of touched on it as well. It's just the acceptance and the culture of promotion and improvement, and the fact that everybody there is modeling kind of the same genre.
Yep.
It kind of lends itself to just a different vibe. And that vibe was there before, 20 years ago, 15 years ago when we were there, and it's certainly surviving.
Yep.
May even been even more entrenched at this point. I would say probably it was.
I would agree.
Facility was fabulous. The hotels were great. The restaurants were great. They did a great job putting it all together. And I think I look forward to getting back into the fold and making as many of these AMP shows as I can get to.
Speaking of which, we need to reserve a table up for next year so that we'll have some place to sit and put our mics.
Well, a lot of that would not have been possible without our old friend John Charvat, who was assistant show chairman for AMPS 2024 and past AMPS president. We had him on, was it December maybe?
Yes.
To kind of pitch this show, and I'm glad we did that. But we had him back for a little recap. Let's see what the assistant show chairman had to say about his own show. Well, Dave, our trip to AMPS was fraught with miscues and off communications and technical difficulties, but we made it up there and back in one piece. And our final guest for this episode is old friend, past AMPS president, and for the 2024 convention, co-show chairman. I believe that's correct. John Charvat. How you doing, man?
Doing well. How are the boys from Kentucky doing?
We're pretty good. I'm Mr. Mominant all week, so I've been kind of busy.
Well, I'm pumped, man. I'll tell you what, coming back, AMPS gave me the same kind of modeling high that I got after Heritage Con and that I get from every Nationals. It was a party. It was a contest well executed.
So great job.
Well, thanks.
So now you get to pass the hat on, right?
No, I don't pass the hat on. That's my hat.
Okay, but you somebody else gets a new hat.
Yeah, exactly. Someone else will basically, Pete Espada from Central Pennsylvania AMPS will be running the next show, which will be in Camp Hill outside of Harrisburg, Pennsylvania, the site of our 23 show. And he gets to do it all over again.
So now, have you sworn it off, or are you willing to take on the job again some point in the future?
Well, Dave, after doing this will have been my 5th show. So I'm just going to become Mr. AMPS member at large and enjoy myself kind of like you guys did, during the show.
You were a hardworking man at the show, I got to say.
That was kind of the, basically react to the problems. Most of the hard work was actually done, here last fall and into the over the winter.
Well, it was a super successful show, the second largest number of entries ever.
It was 681 models. The grand record was another Midwest show, basically back in 2018 at Dayton, where we had 713 models.
Nice. So you were within spitting distance.
Yes, we were, and most of those models came in on Thursday night, so the judging teams were working extra hard through Saturday afternoon.
Yep.
Oh,
Hey,
man.
Listen, all credit to you guys. You got a ton of models judged and out on the table, and that was an impressive feat. You really must have had a lot of help.
Yeah, I'm not sure what the count was of people that judged, but yeah, I saw a lot of people in there doing 2 and 3 tours, 2-hour tours during the show. So yeah, we had a lot of great members, a lot of new folks made the trip and were able to go in there and judge, and hopefully they'll come out of that as a better modeler.
Well, and I got to say, I was impressed by the distances traveled by some of the entrants. I mean, you had guys from Canada, guys from Seattle, Denver, Las
South
Vegas,
Texas.
South Texas. It truly is a national show.
Yeah, and then we had a couple from across the pond, so we like to call it an international show.
Where were the folks from across the pond? Are they England or?
Yeah, I know we had 2 gentlemen from England, Chris Lloyd Staples and Mr. Philip Smith. Chris is our international second VP, so we're supposed to have a couple more, but one had health problems and couldn't make it across. So hopefully we'll see him next year. But Chris is a basically doesn't matter where the show is held, he shows up.
I was about to say he's an old AMPS haunt.
Yeah, absolutely. He's been coming over since 2007, 2008, something like that.
And probably been in the society since its inception, I think, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, maybe so. But he's also a big MAFA guy over in England. So
okay,
kind of like our sister organization over there.
Well, we sure had fun shopping the vendors. Did you get any feedback from those guys?
Yeah, basically, one of the things I tend to do at a show that I'm part of leadership with is basically just walk around and just ask them how they're doing. And I did not get a single complaint. Everybody seemed to be making money and having a good time. So I count that as a victory.
Well, I'll tell you what, A, they should be happy they got plenty of my money. And B, I do the same thing. I always ask vendors at shows how's it going? And everybody all of the vendors were effusive in their praise for the facility. They were all happy with the way the business was going. So yeah, you all scored 10 out of 10 all across the board.
Well, thanks. And again, we couldn't have done it without Mr. David Doyle being involved, because him, after doing the MVPA show in the same venue, basically helped us get our foot in the door, and then basically was doing some behind the scenes working with trying to get things lined up. Reached out to Mini Art, ICM, and I believe a third entity overseas to try to get raffle prizes and stuff. So we gave him an AMPS coin as well as a certificate of appreciation for his assistance in putting on the show.
Speaking of the raffle, very, very good raffle. Enjoyed it. I spent a little money. I got something out of it. No complaints, and you all ran a very efficient raffle. Your raffle team was really, really good.
Yeah, it was second year for the raffle chief, but he also had some good part-time help with them who had done it before. So yeah, it's kind of, they basically have it down to where it's pull the tickets, get the numbers on the board, and then they go to work handing stuff back out. And then also on the raffle, I'd be remiss if I didn't say we had a lot of great big package donations, which enabled us to do kind of a $5 raffle. And unfortunately, after putting in a little bit of money, I didn't seem to do anything on that one. But it was fun watching everybody get excited and stuff with that.
That was pretty nice. There's some nice things there for a $5 shot.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Back to the facility, John. We hope you guys make it back to that place at some point, because that just seemed just about as ideal as you could get. Now, you could have had some carpet on the floor. That made it a little nicer. But as far as coming down the elevator of the hotel and walking right out the front door and hanging a right and crossing the street and walking right in the front door. We've stayed at hotels where the thing was actually part of the convention center, and it was not as close as that was.
Exactly. I think we had a longer walk in San Marcos, and we were in the convention hotel.
Yeah, I remember my one or so days there at San Marcos. But yeah, it was the venue was outstanding. The people there were great. We had our event coordinator kind of got thrown into the event halfway through our planning. As our boss got moved basically our original event planner got moved to become the general manager of the facility. So our event coordinator was, it was kind of a learning experience on both sides. She was learning how to do her job, and I was, kind of learning, okay, what are we really signing up for? But again, they were very receptive. Once we got there, Kyler, our event coordinator, was checking with us all the time, jumped really quick on problems and that. So, from a administration / facility point of view, the Century Center was outstanding, and I think we're going to try to work plans trying to get a show going on there. We'll see what happens with that. What we really need is we're going to need a chapter to step up and take the reins for the show.
Well, do you have chapters in Chicago?
Yes. Yeah, the Chicagoland chapter was the hosting chapter this year.
Okay, I was going to say, I mean, given the distance to Chicago, that facility is great and probably a bunch cheaper than anything you'd find in suburban Chicago.
Yeah, I don't know about a bunch cheaper, but what we were able to do was get a couple of grants from the city of South Bend, which really took the price down to the sweet spot that, we look at in AMPS for shows. We have some, we have a little room in our pockets, but we're not, don't have quite as deep as pockets as some of the other organizations out there that, will jump into those types of venues.
You'll get there. You'll get there. You just keep building up that war chest. It won't take you nearly as long as you think it might.
Yeah, maybe so. But I will tell you, COVID put the smack dab on us for not really taking in any dues or really we were taking in dues, but we weren't doing any shows. So that kind of.
Yeah. Oh, no, listen, IPMS USA had to cancel a convention, and boy, you don't want to go through that. That was no fun at all.
Yeah, we actually canceled 2, which kind of led to doing the super regional in South Bend back in 2021. So
yeah,
which is more, hey, we need to get some money coming in some way. And again, the price was right to do that one. So.
Well, not to talk filthy lucre, but I assume that you all came off financially okay from the show. It seemed like it was very successful.
Yeah, I honestly don't know. I haven't heard the the end results yet. So I believe we did do okay, but again, I'm not sure what the the actual number in the black was.
Sure.
Well, John, before we wrap up, is there anything else or anyone else you'd like to shout out from the show? Or
yeah, really. My show team or the show team that I work with. I have to mention first Pat Vess, who was our seminar guy, because I forgot to mention him in previous times I was in front of a crowd or something like that. So thanks, Pat. My show co-chair, Chuck Ailshire, Chris Grader, our vendor coordinator, Brian Eberly, our register, our AMP secretary. Let's see, Dave Vickers, chief judge. Who else am I forgetting? Frank Frummett, who handled sponsorship, George Ironman, our raffle chief, and all the other volunteers that assisted us and helped us weather the storm there. So
it was great, and I can't wait for next year. Mike and I, even though it's going to be an 8 or 9 hour drive for us to Harrisburg, I'm planning on it.
Okay, well, I guess I'll see you there in my disguise of not having a real job.
There you go.
We'll
look for the guy with the glasses and the Groucho glasses and mustache.
Yeah, that might be me. It might not be. It might be somebody else.
All right.
Well, John, thanks for a great time, man. We really had a blast.
Hey, yeah, not a problem. Like I said, I'm glad you guys came. And again, very, very thankful that you guys supported it and, let me get on here a couple times and talk about it, as well as the other, your podcasting cohorts.
Be sure to send the chair of the Harrisburg show our way, because we definitely will want to promote that show.
I'll definitely mention that to Pete and, let him know that, I know probably you guys and Rob Riv and the Modeling Insanity Boys will probably, want to go. And
well, you might get, who knows, you're that close, you might get the geeks showing up.
Yeah. And one thing I will throw out there, kind of as a parting thing, met a couple of real nice individuals that you guys, talk about. Stephen Lee, had a great time talking to him. We had a common background of both serving in the military and stuff, and just really like, chatting with him and seeing his models and trying to get him talked into competing next year. And when we go to Camp Hill, so thumbs up with that. Great guy.
Yeah.
All right, John. Well, thanks for coming back on after a little technical gaffe on the show floor, but always good to talk to you.
Okay. Sounds great.
All right, man.
All right, we'll see you all later.
See ya.
Well, John's a great guy. Put on a great show. Great old friend. We've had a lot of fun with John over the years.
He is one of the nicest people you'd ever want to meet. He really is just nice, genuine, friendly to everybody. I don't want to give him the big head, but he really is a great guy.
We got any closing thoughts or shout outs before we wrap this up, Dave?
Yeah, I've got 2 shout outs, one of which I'm sure you concur in. Shout out to all the folks in the AMPS National Organization who made the show happen. Shout out to Mr. Sharvat. Shout out to all the other people involved. It was a great, seamless process from beginning to end. Shout out to all the guys who put in a turn at judging, because you couldn't get 681 models judged without a lot of people doing a lot of work. So shout out to all of the guys who were involved in putting on the show.
Had a great time, man. Glad we went.
Yeah. Now I've got one more shout out.
Go for it.
Shout out to fellow podcaster John Bonani. John was there at the show, along with TJ from the PPP. Got to spend some time with him. Had a great time. John brought a number of models to enter, one of which was a 3D printed 72nd scale British World War I Whippet tank on a base with a slope and part of a trench line that was just beautifully done. And I had mentioned to John several times throughout the days we were there how much I really liked that piece and that I thought he had done a really great job on it. And he walked up to me Saturday afternoon and said, "Do you want it?" And I was like, "Are you serious?" And he was deadly serious and just gave it to me. And it's now proudly sitting in my case. It's an inspiration, and I want to shout John out for doing that. That was very kind, and I really appreciate it.
Well, I'm going to shout out Matt Schaefer for putting together the meet and greet dinner at the brew pub there.
Yeah.
That was a lot of work, and he got a little dodgy there for a minute because I think maybe more people showed up than anybody was anticipating.
Yes, I think we kind of overwhelmed the brew pub a little bit.
But the beer was great. The food was good. My 17-year-old managed to get filled up.
Yes, which if you can fill up a 17-year-old boy, you're doing something.
Thanks for that. And I hope everybody was there who has actually paid for that, because it was a prepaid event. We were wondering about that, given the number of folks who had shown up. And, you shout out John and TJ and the posse guys. I want to shout out Rob Riv and the Modeling Insanity crew.
Yeah, we got to sit with them at the brew pub, and that was really fun. We had a lot of fun poking at each other.
Yeah, we never met those guys before, and we're from different corners of the earth, and it all worked out. Great guys.
It was great.
We had a lot of fun, guys, and we went out to dinner on Saturday as quickly as we could get there. So we saw you guys poking through the windows at the Irish place, and finally found you guys out on the patio. And I hope you liked it as much as we did, because that place was phenomenal.
It was.
And I'll shout out the Fiddler's Hearth, because they had 3 Floyd's Gumball Head on tap.
On tap, which is a near religious experience. As good as Gumball Head is in the can or the bottle, having it out of the tap was especially combined with really, really good Irish food. It was a near religious experience.
Loved it. If we ever get back there, I'm definitely eating there again.
Oh, gosh, yes.
Well, folks, that's AMPS 2024 from the Plastic Model Mojo point of view. Well, if you didn't make it to South Bend, you're really going to try to make it to Harrisburg, Pennsylvania, especially those folks in the eastern United States. I was surprised. We had folks from all corners of the United States there at the show. And
yes,
I think everybody's having a good time, Dave.
I think they are.
Well, as we always say,
so many kits.
So little time, Dave, and I'll check you out for one.